appreciate it so much. I've had the students in my classes that came to class high. I've had the students in my class that passed out. I've had the students in my classes that had no faith in themselves. They would fail an exam and I would never see them again because they didn't know how to bounce back. They didn't know how to believe in themselves. And I've had the ones that would sit there with their arms crossed and put this hard shell on, and I had to work for it every day during that 16 weeks to break into that shell and connect with them. And it's because of people like you that my institution here at Bladen Community College and faculty like I have can make a difference. So thank you for your time, thank you for being here, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for asking me to do the welcome, because it's an honor to welcome you here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. At this time, I ask Reverend Cameron Gill from Lake Church to come and open up the prayer, please.
Hi. We thank you that you are the God on the mountain and even the God in the valley. So we pray especially tonight for those stuck in that valley, that they would see there is a way out. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much for that. Due to COVID, our task force team has been meeting less frequently, with our most recent meeting being in January. I am so happy to see each one of you here and appreciate your attendance and ongoing commitment to share in our important work. I would like to take a moment to thank Bladen Community College President Mandy Lee for hosting us tonight at this beautiful campus. It's hard to believe that this month will mark 3.5 years since this task force was formed, and we've been going for 3.5 years. We started September the 12th, 2017. Many of you were in attendance at that meeting, and you have been faithful in your ongoing participation. You have played an important role in the progress we have made during these 3.5 years, and I thank you for that. Even though we've been diligent and worked hard on these important issues, we have a great deal of work ahead of us. You may have seen or heard reports that one of many negative impacts of COVID is that it has led to the increase in substance misuse and overdose, which is so unfortunate. It's important to note that there would have been an even higher number of overdose-related deaths if not for the good work of law enforcement, EMS personnel administering naloxone to save their lives. I want to thank and commend our public safety personnel. I recognize that their work is becoming increasingly difficult, and we greatly appreciate the important service they provide to the residents of Bladen County. I also want to thank East Point for the generosity in providing naloxone, I can't even say that tonight, for use by our public safety agendas. We have a great agenda for tonight's meeting, including several guest speakers who will share their very real and personal experience and hardship related to substance abuse. I want to thank each of them for their willingness to be with us tonight and for helping us all to better understand how devastating the effect of substance misuse can be for individuals and families. And hopefully that will help to reinforce for each of us the importance of our work on this task force. Also, we'll hear more in detail from the various presenters. Even though we haven't been holding formal meetings on our normal schedule, work has continued toward implementation of various steps in our strategic plan. However, we're hopeful coming to a time when we can get back on track with the work of our subgroups in order to make a real progress in improving the lives and citizens of our community. Dr. Kathy again.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your continued support and your participation for tonight. As Mr. Peterson shared, the task force has continued to work diligently, even though we have been through COVID, and we have continued to be busy and to be focused on making a difference for a safer and healthier Bladen County. So I know that many of you have seen the billboard campaign that we launched entitled, "Do You Have an Addiction? We Can Help," and then a phone number, and then recommended resources, which that has been in place. We're getting ready to launch a second campaign that will share our support groups in Bladen County, and they will be presenting tonight. We have a grief group, we have 2 Celebrate Recovery groups, and we have an AA group, support group. And so we want that to be publicized so the community knows and how to get in touch with those individuals to attend meetings for continuous support, whether you're in recovering or you are a family that needs support. We were pleased that Bladen County joined the NC-ABC Board Coalition recently. And so Bladen County, from the ABC sales, we receive 8% of those monies that fund programs, and 8% of that will go to Teen Challenge and Carolina Crossroads, which will help individuals in recovery. Bladen County Middle School and high school students have been introduced to a program that's funded totally by the ABC board, and it's entitled Talk It Out Bladen. And so they have launched that this year, and they are in the process of taking a look at a program for the elementary school students. And Ms. Kimberly Esters will follow me for a few short moments to share additional information on these programs and the progress. Also, the JCPC community assessment was developed based on community needs, and those needs represented for the school system that we need a gang reporting form for students and parents, and we also need a bullying and harassment way of reporting, both in written form, followed by follow-up 24 hours, and also to be able to report anonymously to keep our boys and girls safer. So at this time, again, thank you again for your continued support and the individuals that have come out tonight to share with us. And so at this time, Ms. Kimberly Esters will share a few words with you about Bladen County Schools updates. Thank you.
I really wanted to talk about our SARS. SARS is Say Something Anonymous, and our students have been trained, but I thought it was important that parents know that parents could report anonymously as well. The system allows youth and adults to securely submit anonymous safety concerns anytime from anywhere. We're talking about if you know someone that is thinking about committing suicide, bullying, self-harm, any of those forms of threatening behavior, there's a 1-800 number, there's an app, and also a mobile app, a website that you could report that on. And the school system, the children really use it a lot. We've been able to prevent a lot of harm by the students being trained on that, but I did want the community to know that parents could use that information as well. And what I can do is get those numbers and that website information out so that Dr. Gantz can share it with you guys. But the website is www.saysomething.net. The hotline number is 1-844-5-SAY-NOW, and it is really effective in helping save some of the incidents that happen at school. Thank you.
Good evening. So glad you took the opportunity to come out and be a part of this tonight. I'm David Foster. I'm the association missionary for the Bladen Baptist Association. We have 41 Southern Baptist churches within our association, but there are 220 churches in Bladen County. And part of the work of the faith-based part of this task force is trying to connect those churches to affect change within their community. God has placed those churches, I believe, in strategic places to make a difference in the community with where their church is located, and that's our part. And as I sit here listening tonight, just to those that have already spoken, the word that came to my mind was investment. And that's exactly what we must do as a faith-based, as a community. We have to invest into the lives of those that are struggling with substance abuse. Those that deal with the crisis, the HHS and the DSS, and the law enforcement, the court system, the ministers that are called to provide services at a funeral for someone that's overdosed and their family. Those are crisis situations, and we want to do our best to reach out to those families and those individuals struggling with substance abuse before it gets to that crisis point. And we can do that if we have our eyes opened to the community around us. I'm reminded of the way Jesus ministered, Matthew chapter 9, as he talked about the fields being white unto harvest. It said Jesus went, and Jesus saw, and Jesus had compassion. We must follow that same model. We need to go. We can't stay in isolation. And I know COVID has caused us to pull back into ourselves. And isolation in itself causes many problems. That's been one reason that the rise in substance abuse has increased, because of isolation, difficulty, struggles, hopelessness that brings. But we've got to go. Our churches, for the most part, not just the 41 Baptist churches, but all of our churches, we've been too self-focused. We've got to go into the community and see people. And when we go into the community, we will see them as they are, struggling and hopeless and needing help. And when we go and we will see them, then we'll have compassion to then reach out and minister to their needs. James chapter 4, verse 17 tells us that, so whoever knows what the right thing to do is and does not do it, to him it is sin. God's given us a responsibility to invest our lives into those around us that are in need, and there are many, and Bladen County is full, and we need to be able to go out. I'm so blessed that the leadership of Bladen County in so many different ways and so many different levels are inviting the faith-based community to be a part, because they recognize we've got to serve as a community. We've got to work together. Closing story, it's not just about those that are struggling with addiction themselves, but those that are affected by the addiction of a family member. Many of you may know the story. You may have heard about the little girl, 11 years old, had a birthday party on a Sunday night at a bowling alley, and it seemed that they were having a good time. Her mother, however, didn't come to the party. Her mother was a substance abuser and was not there. That night, that little 11-year-old girl decided that life was not worth living. And the next morning, her grandparents, who were her guardians, found her in the closet, and she had taken her life at 11 years old, just turned 12, or not even yet 12. That's crisis. This family was not connected with the church. We've got a responsibility, folks, not just the church, but we've got to see. We've got to be in the midst of this dark and twisted generation. We cannot afford any longer to stand on the fringes and look and say, they know where help is. We've got to take the help, the gospel, that is powerful transformation to where they are, into their community, into their life. If we know what's right and we do not do it, to him, that is sin. Amen.
Dr. Terry Duncan, Consolidated Health.
So when people think of the health department in the last year, they think about COVID. But in the last year, COVID happened, but substance abuse didn't stop. Neither did behavioral health issues and mental health issues. And as Pastor Dave has already told us, it only made it worse. So the health department has continued to work on several grants. We have 2 in progress now. One I think David Howell will speak to later, and the other I'll speak to. We're working with what will end up being partners that we're already working with the schools, our local county officials, Department of Health and Human Services, law enforcement, the faith-based organizations, and it's a rural opioid response grant that's funded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. One of the primary objectives in this would be to have a behavioral health as part of primary care in Bladen County. and currently that is just not in existence. Some other opportunities are evidence-based programs for substance use resilience and opportunities for prevention in the middle school grades 6 through 8, as well as opportunities for training and implementation of naloxone kits out in the general public. And currently we do not have that for family members, even in our community. Currently we only have one medication drop box, and it's located at the Sheriff's Department. That is a year round. We are hoping to have additional medication drop boxes again to help prevent the opioid and or other substance misuse. We are working also through Safe Kids, the DHHS program, for a medication drop that will happen on March the 27th in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department, and Mr. Cheshire may speak to that later. And it's just been a pleasure to be able to work with so many community partners here, and thank you all for your support.
David, Hal, if you'll be making your way down, and I'm going to talk about the East Point grant. For the last 3 years, we've been able to get $50,000 from East Point, $50,000 a year. So this year, the money goes to Southeast Crossroads for treatment fees, Celebrate Recoveries for materials and supplies, Teen Challenge for materials and supplies, Strategic Plan, and Alcohol Anonymous for advertising and church utilities. That's what the $50,000 is being used for this year.
Good afternoon. I wanted to start off just to share some statistics to bring some things to light. And as you know, it's been a tough year with COVID, and we've grown a lot of partnerships, especially EMS has with public health, and I think we can really continue to grow these things. Looking at some statistics for 2020, when we were working on a second Samson grant for EMS, which we haven't heard back from whether we're going to get it or not. Calls actually through our dispatch center that were EMD as possible overdoses, we had 75. We treated by overdose protocol and transported 73 of them. That was a 29% increase as compared to 2019. Total Bladen County EMS, the county-based EMS service, has administered 83 doses of Narcan in 2020. Bladen Borough EMS has administered about 11 doses. E-Town Rescue, 8 doses. If you average it up, that's about 7 doses a month. Right before the EMS Advisory Board meeting, I looked at the numbers for January and February. We're right on track still for that same average, unless something changes. Our original grant has been focused on training and a community paramedic effort. Our community paramedic is trying to build a client list, especially on the behavioral health side, but she's also trying to follow up with what overdose cases we may get that we know of through EMS that we've transported. But like I said, again, COVID has kind of took a toll on that thing, so we've had to put brakes and shift towards public health, helping with COVID vaccinations. But we are trying to build that as far as patient list and response list for the community paramedic. Just to touch on the Samson grant, this is a continuation grant that we applied for. If we can get it, it will continue to fund EMS training as far as mental health and opioid response, and it will continue to fund the community paramedic initiative. And with the grant that Terry and them are working, I think it's DHHS, we're hoping at some point we can work the community paramedic into that piece to help with the education and with the school systems and stuff too. But that's just a quick update where we're at right now. But I felt these numbers really would shed some light. And I think COVID may have brought a little bit more on the OD side, but I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
This time, Pastor Jason Williams.
My name is Jason Williams, pastor at Foundation Church, also director of DreamWorks. Meredith DeBose, who is a licensed counselor, she is duly licensed in mental health and substance abuse. She is watching via online tonight, and she wanted me to take a moment and share that we do offer DWI services. We offer assessments through her counseling and being approved by the state of North Carolina, as well as we offer counseling services to help people in their recovery process if they have been convicted. Tonight I am sharing just briefly about Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is for anyone. If you have hurts, hang-ups, and habits, and I believe that represents all of us, Celebrate Recovery is for you. We hold it on the first Friday of each month. And I have to say that with Cape Fear Teen Challenge, thank you to their director and their staff for allowing them to come. Carolina Crossroads, thank you, Kinsey, for allowing the men to come. If you've never been around these men and women, I encourage you, whether it be at Windsor, if they're there, or in Foundation, to attend. If you get the opportunity to get to know their struggles and what they're facing, it reminds me of the words of Jesus, to whom's forgiven much, loves much. The freedom, the authenticity, the sincerity of these individuals, for me as a pastor, is not only overwhelming, it's refreshing. We are in a war. We're in a war against substance abuse. For somebody like myself, who's now been over 20 years clean, I stand up here not only recognizing, remembering that I'm still in recovery, but I also think about those like Giles McCauley, who cannot be with us here tonight. His sister is here, and we represent those individuals as well, because this battle is real. And Celebrate Recovery reminds people that freedom from addiction is possible, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So Celebrate Recovery gives them a pathway, an opportunity to continue that recovery process, because we are all vulnerable to things. We're vulnerable to this world, and we're vulnerable to sin in our lives. And as we've heard the testimonies tonight, the truth is we could probably all say we've been to church tonight, because we've heard powerful testimonies that reveal the miracle-working power of God. And Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered program. If you'd like to learn more, Windsor's going to share about it as well. We would love to partner with any of our churches in the area. We offer live worship and in-person worship, and we have a phenomenal time learning about God, encouraging each other. We have a meal together. I wouldn't miss it as a pastor. I haven't missed one yet. That's how important it is even to me in this county.
Mr. Robert.
Okay, good evening. My name is Robert Villegas. A bit about me, I'm actually part of the Associate's Degree Nursing program here. I have been for a few years, been a nurse over 20 years. As far as the, thank you for what you said about Celebrate Recovery. It's been around for about 25 years, started in California, now has over 27,000 locations, and close to 2 million people have gone through the program successfully. It's based on 12 steps, similar to Alcoholics Anonymous, except it's Christ-centered, not a higher power, not taking anything away from their program, but 8 principles based on the Beatitudes of Scripture. And yeah, familiar with Teen Challenge and Crossroads. You guys are awesome. Thanks. We have a lot of testimonies there, and we do lessons going through the program. We have large groups, small group. We try and get the community involved as far as different churches or other entities cooking dinners for us every night, and you know, volunteering. So if anybody wants to volunteer, come on. You know, I'll talk to you. We'll talk to you. But yeah, we meet at Windsor United Methodist Church in Ammon, and as far as Foundation Church, we work with them. We're not competitors by any means. They're our partners here, absolutely. But we meet Sunday nights, 6:30, over off 242, and it's like I said, different addiction programs, whether it's chemical, behavioral, drugs, alcohol, codependency, gambling, food, sex, porn, violence, divorce, on and on, that about covers it, but there's a lot more. But not only that, we try and go deeper than that. As far as, like it's been said, what caused it, anxiety, depression, other behavioral type issues, mental health issues. There's a lot of behind the scenes that, but ultimately it's a spiritual issue. It is, and that needs to be addressed, and that's why we do what we do. You know, a bit about myself, I grew up with the sex and drugs and rock and roll back in Colorado Springs, and went into the military, and it's alive and well in the military. And you know, I've got my master's in nursing, and the face of addiction, I've seen the face of addiction, and it is us. It is us. Whether you're a president of a college or a nursing instructor or a business owner or a parent or a grandparent or fill in the blank, the face of addiction is us. No one is immune. You know, I've known, taken care of, as a nurse, taking care of people that hurt their back farming, and got on painkillers, prescription, ultimately got addicted. And so from the young teenage to the older professional, everywhere in between, it's there, believe me. And you know, if that doesn't touch where you live, take a look here, and you at home, look in the mirror, okay? Nobody is immune from this, from being addicted flat out. Not only that, but if you think you are, what about your kids? What about your grandkids? They're growing up in the world that we leave them. They are. Your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, you know, womb to the tomb, everywhere in between. Everybody, it affects all of us, and everybody is susceptible. That's why I do what I do. I work full time, but I dedicate a lot of time to working with those that I work with, because it's not them, it's us. It's all of us. We all are that close to being there. And you know, if you've never, you at home, anybody, if you've never really personally gotten to know any recovering addictions, addicts, if you've never personally gotten to know, shame on you, flat out. If you call yourself a Christian and it's those addicts and it's me, I'm over here, I will help them. I'll put my, you know, money in the tray and call it good. Shame on you if that's where you're at, because that's not what we're called to do. We're called to roll up our sleeves and get involved here now with what they're doing, and Sunday night, Friday nights, you name it, because our kids are going to inherit what we leave them, flat out. That's pretty damn good motivation for me. Thank you.
Dr. Rudy.
Her last name is tricky. It is Ramfall. I'm a little bit like Angel here. I think Angel mentioned that she did not know what she was walking into. And I get that. I was looking at the bottom, and it says question and answers for panel. I was wondering, who's the panel? Then I looked at where I was sitting. Since I've been here, I've done 6 funerals. I'd only been here for about 5 months. And I've realized that, and that wasn't just folks from Elizabethtown Baptist Church, that's where I'm pastoring, that was folks from the Elizabethtown community. Folks who didn't go to church, folks who had just heard about me, folks who had an uncle or a grandparent that was the member of a church, or a member of Elizabethtown Baptist Church. And so I realized that these people were hurting. And as I'm listening tonight, I realize that loss is a very real part of this process as well. And that sometimes there are people who lose their lives because of addiction. And what is left behind is a family that is grieving. And so that's where this started, this grief support group. We meet in a nice little room with couches. We try to make folks as comfortable as they can, or as we can, as they go through the ultimate experience of loss. And so, again, that's how this started. There are 2 things that we stress. One, and I don't think we're alone here, or at least Elizabethtown Baptist Church isn't alone here, is that we inject spirituality. We inject God into the process. And the other thing that we do is that we allow people to lean on each other. We have currently about 4 ladies who have recently lost their husbands within the last 4 months. And sometimes I just sit as a group facilitator and watch them help each other. And that is powerful for me. So that is what the grief support group is all about at Elizabethtown Baptist Church. I have a mental health background in this regard. My training is mental health. I served as a juvenile court counselor for about a decade, and even now do some consultation with a number of mental health organizations. And that is important. But again, as I've heard said over and over again tonight, there's a spiritual component that is so desperately necessary. And not just by people who go to church, or not just in people who go to church. You don't have to go to church to cry out to God in the midst of that darkness, in the midst of that loss. And so, like so many other organizations here, we want to, David, you pointed out, go, and we want to see, and we want to have compassion, and we want to say to those people who think that they are those people, that we are your people. And that's what we do in this grief support group. So if you're interested, contact Elizabethtown Baptist Church. I'd be glad to tell you a little bit more about it.
At Open Door Ministry, they do Alcohol Anonymous.
Correct.
Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7:30. So we want to share that with you, the gentleman coming.
Bill Rubens, the man's name, you get it, but I got his number.
Yep. So we have all the information needed. At this time, the Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Daniel Clark.
Here to talk to you about the 2 things. Our community impact team that we just started back in August of last year. It's comprised of 2 deputies. One's a canine officer, the other one's just a regular patrol deputy. They've received specialized training in recognizing narcotic trafficking, narcotic smuggling, and also with DWIs, DUIs, whatever they call it now. They change it yearly, whatever it's going to be called. These deputies been out here hitting the streets. They've been hitting them hard, and I've got some numbers I want to throw at you. Just keep in mind, these are only 2 deputies. This isn't a whole squad. So when we first started in August, 33 felony drug arrests, 65 misdemeanor drug arrests. 18 felony arrests, 79 misdemeanor drug arrests in October. 11 felony arrests, 24 misdemeanor arrests in December. And in January, 36 felony arrests, 55 misdemeanor arrests. So just like in EMS, our numbers stay pretty static. We've also just started the Tri-County Task Force, which is comprised of Columbus, Bladen, and Robeson County. Sheriffs came together. One of the problems that we have in law enforcement is manpower and resources. You know, we need to start talking to one another within the law enforcement community, because my drug dealers like to go over to Robeson County. Robeson County's drug dealers like to come over here to Columbus and Bladen. So we had the bright idea, hey, why don't we just join forces and let's just smash them all together. That's what we started doing. We have had a really good turnout with the Tri-County Task Force. These are very professional officers. They're highly trained officers. We are combining our resources together by providing more canines to the effort. Robeson currently has a force of about 6 canines. We now have 3 canines. Y'all probably know my partner, Jax. He's out there chilling in the truck right now. We also have a new canine Arco. He just got certified. Columbus County currently has 6 canines. We provide air support during these Tri-County Task Force operations. Just this last month, we were down in Columbus County.
In 8 hours, we made 43 felony drug arrests and I believe 26 misdemeanor arrests, drug arrests. That's just the drug arrests. That's not the DWIs, the citations that we also issued. So everywhere you go, there's going to be a drug problem. We're going to be out there. We're going to be hunting them. We're going to find them. We're going to catch them. They can run as long as they want to. They will get caught. As for the addicts, for those of you that have addicts at home, and as a parent, you don't want to reach out, I urge you to. If you need to talk to me, I can talk to you in confidence. Talked to Mr. Doyle in confidence before. I mean, I don't mind talking to any of y'all. If I could talk to you and keep your child or your loved one from going 6 feet under or putting them in handcuffs, I'll do it. That's what I'm here for. Thank y'all.
Dwayne Cheshire with Elizabethtown Police Department.
I heard everybody speaking tonight and talking about different issues and stuff that have come up. I thought of two questions that come to mind. If not you, then who? And if not when, or if not now, when? And I think the people in here are representative of the fact that the time's now to act, and it begins with you. Sergeant Clark was talking about the progress that's been made on the law enforcement side regarding the battle we have against drug addiction. And I have to say, I think I speak on behalf of Chief Parrish and the other agencies in the county when I say it's easy at times to get discouraged when you look at the numbers and statistics and see what's going on. But there's a lot here I hear tonight and I see that is very encouraging. And it's nice to know that we have this task force in place that'll work hand in hand with each other as well as law enforcement, because we're just a part of it. But I want you to know the impact that you have in people's lives. You'll never know how much impact you have in people's lives. I think we get a sample of it with what we heard tonight, you know. We hear about the tragedies Mr. Owen talked about. And like I said, it's easy to get discouraged, but then you get inspiration from the people you hear talk, Angel, Lisa, Duran, and Lathan, the different ones. As I sit over there listening to it, these people are where they are because people stood in the gap and made the difference for them. And we as law enforcement community, we appreciate what y'all do. We really do. And I'm happy to say that we're very fortunate as a county to have agencies, law enforcement agencies that work closely together and have good rapport. Sheriff McVicker, Chief Parrish, Chief Bruce Smith, and Chief William Howe, White Lake Police Department, Bladen Police Department, as well as all the officers. We have a good working relationship. We get along good, we work together to do what we can do to keep the community safe. But I just want y'all to know that y'all make a difference too. I mean, I think of the words of Winston Churchill, never quit. Never, never quit. I mean, no matter how bad it seems or how hard it gets, you got to keep going. I mean, you can't quit. And Dr. Duncan had mentioned about a medicine drop at the Sheriff's Department. We do have one at the Town Hall at 805 West Broad Street. Just wanted to let you know about that. And if we encourage people within the community there to bring your medications by, your old prescriptions or whatever, drop them off there. Need to get those put in an area where they can be secure and not fall into the wrong hands. Also on March the 27th, Elizabethtown Police Department and other law enforcement agencies in the county will be working in conjunction with Anderson's Drugs to have a medicine drop off there at Anderson's Drugs there on South Poplar Street in Elizabethtown from 9 a.m. till noon. But just to touch on real quick what I was talking about, I want to leave you with this for those of you who may be struggling. And I know during these times it's easy to get apathetic, feel like you're just not making a difference. But believe you me, you do. I leave you with Galatians 6:9. And it says that let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not.
Amen. So what we want to do, first part of the meeting, was just to share what the task force has been working on. And there's more to come, but April the 13th, 6th, maybe Kenzie, maybe Pastor Charlie, y'all might can come back and share with us a little bit. And we'll have a little workshop, and maybe we can get some things ironed out, and maybe we can move this needle